So welcome everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. So today we're going to be talking about how to eat well and live more aligned with your cycle. So today's webinar is going to be run by Clodagh and I. So we'll introduce ourselves in a moment, but just wanted to talk you through how we met. So we met on a workplace wellbeing event a few months ago. And after a brief conversation, we decided to combine our expertise in wellness and collaborate to really educate others on how taking care of your wellbeing can really help you to thrive in the workplace and beyond. And as women ourselves, we understand the unique challenges that women face around their menstrual cycle. So we really wanted to provide you with the education, the guidance, and the tools that you need to feel more in control of your hormone fluctuations each month so that you can manage your symptoms better and so that you can live life more fully. So to introduce myself, so my name's Alison. I'm a registered nutritional therapist. And I got interested in nutrition throughout my teens and my 20s. I ended up suffering from a number of symptoms like bloating, and it was quite painful after every time that I ate. I had fatigue quite a lot of the time. I seemed to suffer from really bad skin, no matter what phase of my cycle I was in. And I soon noticed that the way I was eating was contributing to the severity of my symptoms. So after a lot of research, I then decided to study a 3-year degree in personalised nutrition. And after making some changes to my diet and my lifestyle, my symptoms dramatically improved. I had tons more energy, my skin cleared up. I didn't have those dips of fatigue in the afternoon. I used to feel quite kind of puffy, and that completely went away as well. So it really made me really passionate to understand more about nutrition and to teach others about the power of nutrition and how it can really help you to thrive and help you feel more comfortable in your skin as well.
Great. Thank you, Alison, for the intro, a little backstory of how we met, and great to hear more about your own journey. So my own name is Clodagh, and I'm delighted to be co-hosting this workshop today with Alison. Throughout my own time in the corporate world, I saw a common thread really that burnout was very prevalent amongst my colleagues, and not only that, amongst my friends who worked for different companies. And I felt it myself at times. I was in a very fast-paced working environment and doing something that I really did love, but I was always on. And as I learned more about my body and the effects at different stages of my cycle were having on my body, my mental health, my physical health, my emotional well-being, it really dawned on me that we shouldn't be operating at the same level all of the time. And that can be said really for anyone, but I think in particular for women who are going through their menstrual cycle, there's different phases where we feel different things. Sometimes we feel more tired, sometimes we feel more energized. And we're going to talk through that in more detail in today's workshop, because as they say, knowledge is power. And the more we understand about what's going on within our own bodies, the more we're able to bring awareness to how we're feeling and then react in the right way. So I have always been deeply invested in well-being. I trained as a yoga teacher a few years ago in India. I actually am going back to do another 100-hour training on yin and restorative yoga this November back to India as well. And outside of that, I also became a certified health and wellness coach during the pandemic because I really felt like a lot of people needed more support at a time where we were all feeling so out of control. And I'm really fascinated about the connection between our body, our breath, our minds. And I really, really feel quite passionate about sharing education with others and learning from others. I guess my one wish would be that maybe we would learn more about our bodies, specifically our menstrual cycle and stages from a very young age, maybe from primary school onwards. And the same can be said for menopause. We know that that's thankfully quite a hot topic at the moment, but it's really, really important for us to have more knowledge about this because it will affect us throughout our whole lifespan. So I also then founded my own company, which is called CRAOI. And this is a way for me to, I suppose, put all of my passion into something or a solution that I can share with others. It is a workplace wellbeing solution, and primarily we work with companies and employees, but also individuals to help them across 3 specific pillars: individual wellness, social well-being, so collective and community well-being, and then planet well-being, so how we can make a positive impact on the planet that we're living in. So a quick disclaimer as well, while both myself and Alison are qualified experts in our respective fields in nutrition and health and wellness coaching, we're obviously not medical doctors. So the information shared today is based on current research, lived experiences and professional training, but it should not replace any personalized medical advice that you might currently be receiving. And of course, if you have any underlying health conditions or hormonal concerns or are on medication, or if anything comes up for you today throughout our workshop where you feel you might want to talk to a doctor, we do recommend consulting with your GP or a qualified healthcare provider before making any significant changes to your diet, your exercise, or your well-being routine. So with that housekeeping out of the way, I want to guide us and bring us in now to a very short mindfulness practice. A big reason for this is because we are all very, very busy in this always on world that we're in. And while we really appreciate that you've taken time out today to join us, I also completely understand that you probably have a million and one things also running through your head, the to-do list, the emails that are waiting, the Slack messages that are pinging you nonstop. And what I'm going to encourage you to do now is to bring yourself into the present moment through this very powerful and short guided meditation, and really to just allow all of that noise to drop away, because you're here, you've shown up, and you may as well get all of the benefits from the session by really tuning into it. And everything will be waiting for you at the end. I do promise you that. So what I would ask you to do now is to begin by finding a very comfortable seated position. So ensuring that your feet are firmly grounded on the floor. If they're crossed right now, uncross them. That your back is straight but relaxed. And I would also welcome you all to gently close your eyes if that feels good to you. If not, you can just gently gaze at a fixed position on the floor, or even look at these lovely trees that are moving on screen. Take a deep breath in through your nose, filling your lungs completely. Slowly exhaling through your mouth, letting go of any tension. And let's do that again together. Big inhale deeply through your nose, feeling your belly rise. And exhaling slowly through your mouth, allowing your shoulders to relax. With each breath, feeling yourself becoming more relaxed and more present. Focus on the sensation of the air as it moves in and out of your body. And let yourself just be here fully in this moment. Bringing your attention inward, you can ask yourself gently, how am I feeling? What does my body need today? And what kind of energy am I arriving with? And there's no right or wrong answers here, just noticing without any judgment. Maybe you're feeling tired, curious. Maybe you're calm or open. Everything is welcome. Tuning into whatever it is you need right now. You might feel like you need a little bit more energy, peace, lightness. Whatever word comes to your mind, breathe it in. Visualize it, gently filling your body like a soft wave of color or light. And as you breathe out, allow yourself to let go. Let go of pressure, tension, distraction, and sink more deeply into this moment. Repeat this again for 3 more rounds of breath. Breathing in what you need and releasing what you want to let go of. When you're ready, gently bring your awareness back to the room and allow your breath to return to normal. We are beginning this session together now, grounded, present, and aware of our needs. You can start to wiggle your fingers and toes, maybe moving your neck side to side. And when you feel ready, you can gently open your eyes, allowing the light back in. So hopefully you feel a little bit more present and grounded after that short guided meditation tool, a really powerful tool to use when maybe you've become a little bit more disconnected with what your body and mind needs, which can often happen in the very, very busy days that we have. And if anything that you might take away from today, if you do find yourself doom scrolling, which we often do, maybe catch yourself in that moment and say, can I actually remove this from my phone? Can I put my phone down? Can I sit, take 3 big breaths in and out, ask myself what I need, and just bring yourself back into the present moment? And that will be so much more rewarding than being on the dreaded social media, and something we can do throughout our day to really just connect back in with ourselves, back in with how we're feeling, and allow us to move forward in a much more aware and beneficial state as we go on with our lives. So I'm going to hand back over to Alison now to bring us through some really, really interesting information, which I can't wait to listen to.
Thanks so much, Clodagh. That was amazing. And I feel so relaxed now and ready to go into my part. So thank you. So in order to learn more about our menstrual cycle, we need to understand more about our hormones. So does anyone know how many hormones are in the human body? So there's actually over 50 hormones in the human body, and they help to control all of the important things that our body needs to function. So like our energy, our mood, our menstrual cycle, our stress response, our appetite and weight regulation, and even our sleep. And they help to keep all of the functions in balance. And they are produced by a network of glands called the endocrine system. And they're produced and travel through the bloodstream and have an effect in another area of the body. And this effect can last anywhere from minutes to days to even weeks. Okay, next slide, please. So they essentially act as chemical messengers to help our bodies, to keep our bodies balanced. Next slide. So this is an example of how our stress response system, how hormones help to keep our stress in check. So we are identified with a stressor, the hypothalamus becomes aware. It then produces a hormone called CRH, which then alerts the pituitary gland to release a hormone called ACTH, which then alerts the adrenal gland to produce cortisol. So cortisol has a number of effects in the body. So it increases our heart rate, it dilates our pupils so we can see more clearly, and it increases the oxygen flow in and out of our lungs. And once we've dealt with the stressor, so once these changes in the body have helped us to deal with the stressor, and once the level of cortisol reaches a certain amount, the hypothalamus then senses that and then stops producing the CRH. So this is an example of how the hormones help us to deal with stress. However, in today's very busy world, we are hit with a number of stressors, from financial stress to work stress to personal stress, and our HPA axis, so this is our stress response system, can actually become overwhelmed, and cortisol can remain elevated. So even though this system is supposed to kind of last around 30 minutes or so to deal with that stressor, it can actually, the hormone effect can actually last from weeks or even months in some cases. Next slide, please. So that's an example of how our stress response system can come out of balance. But like I mentioned, there are over 50 hormones in the human body. So they can all become out of balance in some way or another. So it's just really important to be aware of these. And if you're suffering from the symptoms on the screen, then there is something you can do to help reduce the severity of these. So to give you an example, if you're suffering from more frequent UTIs than you normally would, it might indicate that your estrogen level is low, and then helping to balance your estrogen, which I'll discuss in a later slide, could really help to decrease the frequency of those. If you're suffering from acne quite regularly, then it might be because your level of androgens are high. So there's things that you can do to balance those out. If you're suffering from weight gain, then perhaps your hormone and satiety signals are out of balance. So again, we can work on balancing those. So it's just to give you an example that you don't have to live with these symptoms, and through proper nutrition and lifestyle and aligning yourself with your cycle, you can help to reduce the frequency and the severity of these. So what actually causes hormone imbalances? So there's a number of triggers that can lead to hormone imbalances, such as medication. So medication can interfere with the gut lining in some people, that it can actually block certain receptors so that the hormones don't become activated. If you're following a low-fat diet, then we actually need fat in order to make hormones. So that might be affecting the level of hormones in the system. If maybe you're drinking a bit too much, that can interfere with the level of insulin that your body produces, and you might develop insulin resistance. So it's just really important to be aware that sometimes we're not aware that that our behaviours can be contributing to a hormone imbalance that actually leads to the symptom. So if we really take it from sort of a root cause effect and understand why we might be experiencing these, then we can make changes to improve the way that we feel every day. So there are a number of health conditions that may be caused by hormone imbalance, and this isn't to say that hormone imbalance is the only factor. Oh, I think we've got someone in the waiting room, so I'm just going to let them in. Bear with me. Okay, can you see that, Clodagh? I'm not sure if you can see. Oh, yes, there we are. Hi, Emily. I think you're on mute. Yeah, so we're just kind of halfway through, so we'll just continue where we are. But thanks so much for joining.
Yeah, no problem. I'll have to rewatch the bit I missed.
Yes, you will. Yeah, we'll send you the recording afterwards. So
okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, and if you just pop yourself back on mute.
Okay, sure. How do I do that?
Mic. That's it. Thank you. So yeah, I was just saying. So there's a number of health conditions here that may be caused by hormone imbalance. This isn't to say that hormone imbalance is the only reason that you can develop these, but it can make it worse. So for example, diabetes and PCOS, that's essentially caused by insulin resistance. So for example, if you're pre-diabetic, it's good to understand that through nutrition and lifestyle changes, you can help to increase your insulin sensitivity, which can prevent you from developing diabetes. So just really important to understand that, you know, hormone imbalances can contribute towards these. However, there's some conditions here that other factors like genetics have a play. So it's really about, through diet and lifestyle, decreasing the risk of developing these, or the risk of sort of develop and kind of enhancing that and developing it at an older age. So yeah, so that's kind of an example of that, but there's things that you can really do to prevent that. So in terms of the preventative approach, see the world that we live in today, it's a very reactive approach. So we don't know if we're going to develop these conditions, but once we do, it's a very reactive approach, and we're often given medication to deal with them. But what if we could reduce the risk of developing these? So what we really need to think about is intervening in our early years, so our 30s and our 40s. it can really help to have good health in our 60s and 70s. So the earlier that we're aware of our body and how it functions, the more control that we can put into making sure our diet and lifestyle supports our health and our symptoms to have good health in our later years. So now I'm going to talk through the reproductive system. So the reproductive system is controlled by a number of hormones. So first of all, we have FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, and luteinizing hormone. So these are what regulates the menstrual cycle. So FSH stimulates the growth and the maturation of egg sacs, and luteinizing hormone helps to trigger ovulation and stimulates the production of progesterone. Then we have estrogen that initiates the menstrual cycle. We have progesterone that prepares the uterus for pregnancy, and then testosterone, which is involved in sexual desire and libido. So now we have a quick question. So if you'd like to answer true or false, this is the statement: the stage of your menstrual cycle changes your body's metabolism. So do you think that that statement is true or false? Emily, would you like to have a go at that? You might have to unmute yourself.
I think it's true.
Okay, let's have a look what the answer is. Yes, so you're correct. The stage of your menstrual cycle, it does change with your body's metabolism. So when your progesterone rises, for example, this can have an effect on your gut motility, so the speed that food moves through the digestive system. So it can really, different hormone fluctuations can really have a big effect on your body's metabolism.
I think Emily deserves a prize for that, for talking out and sharing her correct answer. But yeah, I think everything you just shared, Alison, is so interesting to me personally. There was a lot that you've spoken to in today's workshop, but even when we were preparing for this workshop, that you've taught me that I didn't know, which is really quite shocking, I guess, to admit that, you know, I didn't know that there was over 50 hormones in the female body, for example. And there's a lot about our cycle and hormones and the effects that our hormones can have on our bodies with different symptoms that I also wasn't aware of. And again, I wish it was something that was taught in school, and I wish it was something that we had more information at hand about, or to be able to speak with our other female friends about, because it's something that we go through all of the time. And actually, it can be quite lonely sometimes, especially if you suffer from certain symptoms throughout your cycle phase, especially when you're menstruating. I have some friends who suffer severe symptoms, and I used to suffer myself with extreme pain. And I remember going to the doctor and being prescribed Ponston when I was a teenager, and Ponston was so strong on my system that I couldn't go to school. So I'd have to take like 2 days out of school every month. Again, not spoken about, but just feeling really shit in myself, feeling shit for missing it. But yet again, wasn't something that we'd say to each other as friends. Oh my God, are you suffering from pain as well? Like what's helping you? What's causing it? Like not knowing enough about it and not having more of an open platform. So I think that's why it's really exciting to be able to host today's workshop, and hopefully host many more of them. I know once we shared the workshop itself with our contacts, there was a lot of interest in it, because I think it's a topic that we should be speaking about more often. So on that, I'm going to explain a little bit more around the 4 seasons of our cycle. So a lot of times people will reference the cycle and break it down into 4 seasons, kind of like the seasons that we experience, like spring, summer, winter, and autumn. It's just a nice way to, I guess, understand the phases that we're going through. And for me, it actually makes a lot of sense. I'm able to kind of visualize it. And as I speak through the different phases and the kind of symptoms or what we're experiencing, I think it will make a lot more sense to you as well. And hopefully going forward, as you're moving through your menstrual cycle, this is something that you can utilize to help you understand maybe what more you need in that stage, or maybe what you need to let go of in that stage as well. So the monthly rhythm, you know, that changes everything. is our menstrual cycle if we know how to listen to it. So it actually, a lot of times I think as women, we can feel a little bit hard done by, like we have to get periods, we have to go through period pains, PMSing, all of this. Men don't, and it can feel like we've gotten the short end of the stick sometimes. However, there's a lot of power in the menstrual cycle and the different phases that we go through and the energy that we can harness at different times, and really leaning into that power is something that I think we need to do more of. And each phase of our cycle will mirror the 4 seasons in nature. And when we honor this rhythm, we can live, work, and perform with more flow and less force. And our menstrual cycle is around 23 to 35 days. It can vary based on the person. The average is 28 days. Mine, for example, is 35 days. I have quite a long cycle. And this is the fluctuation of hormones that Alison has talked us through and shared with us. And these fluctuate across the month. So our period can last on average between 3 to 7 days. And we go through phases. So mine used to be 7 days or 8 days, which was quite long. Again, I felt like I got the short end of the stick there. Now it's kind of changed to like 4 or 5 days, and it's much more manageable. And I would attribute that to changes that I've made in my lifestyle. It's a lot more complex than just a 5-day bleed, though, which is often what we learn about in a textbook, because I guess that's more the prominent phase that we go through. But there's so much going on in our bodies throughout all of the other phases as well. And our periods and our cycle pattern can change. Different things in our lifestyle can change the length, as Alison mentioned as well. And like stress and nutrition and sleep can also have an effect on our cycle. So cycle syncing is something I'm going to speak to. You probably have heard of this word. It's something that's become quite trendy on the likes of TikTok and Instagram these days. It's about syncing our lifestyles to the phases of our cycle. The practice of aligning our daily habits, our nutrition, our exercise and lifestyle with the natural hormonal shifts of our menstrual cycle. And I guess as well throughout our different life stages. So we'll look at the 4 seasons, and we're also going to look at 5 different areas when it comes to health and well-being that we should bring awareness to across these 4 seasons. So that's nutrition, mindset and self-care, stress, movement, rest, and work or performance. So the first cycle stage is our menstrual phase, and this is what we would refer to as inner winter. So it's when our period is upon us, and it's a time for rest, reflection, and release. And our hormones are at their lowest, and therefore our energy may also be. So hormone levels, particularly estrogen and progesterone, I'm really bad at pronouncing that, are at their lowest, and the uterine lining is shedding. And so when it comes to symptoms, people will float through their period. Some people will actually have really intense symptoms. So you might have one friend who doesn't even notice that she has her period, and then you could be crippled over with cramps for 2 days. Bloating, cramps, irritability, tearfulness, gut-related symptoms, and menstruation in itself is an inflammatory response. So we often tend to experience nausea as well. So there's a lot of different symptoms here that we can experience. And this is a season for us to turn inward. Again, like winter, think about being quiet and quietly powerful. And it's not really about being performative, and it's not really about collaborating, but maybe kind of coming back into yourself and resting and using this time to really look at reflecting. The next phase then is our spring phase. So this is a follicular phase, and this follows menstruation and lasts until ovulation. So what's that window in between? And this is when FSH, which Alison mentioned, is released. And this causes the follicles in the ovaries to mature. So once our hormones start to settle, then this tends to be everyone's best week. It's the spring of the menstrual cycle. So after our periods and before our ovulation stage, our skin can often look better in this stage. And this is deemed or termed as ovulation glow. This is just something I came across recently, which made me laugh. But it's our ovulation glow. And we're likely to feel much stronger in the gym or in our workouts and movement. And also because of our metabolism, we tend to have a lower appetite. So we can use this window here to really set the kind of tone for the month ahead, but don't overexert your energy. You're going to start feeling more energetic, but kind of allow that to release slowly so you don't take on too much. You're going to feel quite motivated, but you don't want to lead to burnout or overwhelming yourself either with this newfound energy. So then we go into our summer phase. So this is our ovulatory phase. This is when we're ovulating, and this is the time when we're most fertile. So it's much like the peak of summer. And it's when the ovary releases an egg and our body is most prepared for potential fertilization. And this is really a time for us to shine, to connect, to lead. It's our peak energy phase. We're magnetic, we're feeling sociable, we're feeling clear, and our communication flows and confidence is high. And I didn't time it, but this is the phase I'm in right now. And it's kind of really great and aligned to the fact that we're running this workshop, because I do feel really energized and I feel comfortable leading. Whereas I know when I'm going through my menstrual phase or my winter phase, I feel a little bit more like recluded in myself. I feel a little bit more like I like to be an individual contributor at that stage, like leave me to my own devices. So it's kind of worked out very nicely in my favor, feeling energized, social and expressive. And it's a great time to be outward facing. So using our visibility wisely, and especially when it comes to work, making sure that we take on that extra workload of potentially leading that Zoom meeting and showing up. And then we move into our autumn phase. So after ovulation, if fertilization doesn't occur, progesterone levels rise and the uterine lining is maintained. So if pregnancy doesn't occur, this leads to the start of menstruation. So we see a shift in metabolism and cravings in our next phase. And Alison will speak a little bit shortly to cravings and how to kind of counteract them to eat in a healthy way. And we can also see a small bump in temperature. And this can cause sleep destruction, which can make us feel a little bit more groggy and maybe lower performance in work as well. And it's good to know this so we don't beat ourselves up over it, because again, we can't always be performing at the same level. It can be harder to hydrate, so very important to consume enough fluids. And we can also see an increase in our metabolic rate. The amount of energy we're burning at rest, it actually can be on average an extra 300 calories a day that we're burning at rest here, which is bizarre. So I guess now that we've covered the 4 seasons, we're going to dive a little bit more into these specific areas like nutrition and how we can look at supporting each cycle phase across our health and wellness, and to learn more about how we can support ourselves. Another quick question. You can answer this one internally if you want to, true or false. Intermittent fasting has an effect on how we experience our cycle. So take a moment to kind of think about if you believe that is true or false. I was actually kind of alarmed at the answer. It's true. I didn't actually know that, because I know intermittent fasting has become quite trendy, but I never really hear anyone talk about the fact that it could potentially have an effect on us as females, and it can have an effect, often not in a good way, especially for women with hormone sensitivity. So looking at intermittent fasting is something I think we need to consider, especially if we're females going through our menstrual cycle. So in terms of nutrition, I'm going to hand it over to our expert. Back to you, Alison.
Thanks so much, Clodagh. That's super interesting stuff. So yeah, thanks for sharing. I'm going to just move on to the next slide. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about nutrition in the menstrual cycle. Okay, next slide, please. So the first phase is our menstrual phase. So as Clodagh mentioned, this is our winter phase of the cycle. So this is when our hormones, estrogen and progesterone, are at the lowest. So as Clodagh mentioned, our energy tends to be the lowest through this phase. And we are losing blood, so obviously we're losing iron. So it's really important to consider iron-rich foods in the diet. So eating things like lean red meat, liver is a really good source of iron. So is chicken, fish, and if you're a vegetarian, sources like lentils and chickpeas can be a really good source of iron, as can kale and pumpkin seeds. So so there's lots of foods that you can eat that have iron in. It's important to be aware though, if you are vegetarian, then the vegetarian sources are what we call non-heme sources of iron. So they are slightly less absorbed than the heme sources of iron, which are the kind of meat sources. So it's important that you can pair your vegetarian sources with vitamin C. Vitamin C actually helps with the absorption of iron. So for example, if you're having a salad with some chickpeas and pumpkin seeds, can you sprinkle some lemon over that? Can you have some red peppers? So really combining that iron with vitamin C can help with the absorption. And during menstrual phase, we see a lot of us suffer from cramping, because the uterine lining is being shed. So cramping is a result of inflammation. So to deal with that inflammation, that we can plug some omega-3 sources in the diet. So ensuring that we're eating salmon, nuts, especially walnuts are a really good source of omega-3. We can have curries with turmeric and ginger. And then magnesium can also help with the cramping, because magnesium is a muscle relaxant. So I'm going to give you the green light to eat a bit more dark chocolate during this phase, because it's really going to help with that cramping, as with bananas and whole grains as well. So then we go into the spring phase. So during this phase, our estrogen levels are starting to rise. So in order to make estrogens, we can support the body with phytoestrogens to kind of help support the synthesis of estrogen. So eating things like soy, so tofu or edamame, eating flax seeds. When estrogen has been activated and used by the body, it needs to be excreted. So eating lots of lean proteins and cruciferous vegetables can help with our detoxification system to sort of rid estrogen from the body, because what we don't want is to prevent that and then having a build-up of estrogen, which can lead to estrogen dominance. So ensuring that we have our detoxification systems working well is going to be important for this phase. Also supporting the gut with fiber and fermented foods. So eating things like chia seeds and beans and kimchi can really help support the gut lining, which again helps with the clearance of estrogen. And then moving on to ovulation. So this is our summer phase. This is when our energy can be at the highest. So in order to maintain energy, vitamin B6 is really, really essential for energy production, because it supports carbohydrate metabolism. So ensuring that we're having plenty of leafy greens, chickpeas, avocado and pistachios. So choline is a really important nutrient, because this helps to regulate hormones and improve ovarian function. So eating things like eggs and salmon and edamame. And then zinc's an important nutrient because it influences the maturation of egg cells. So ensuring we're having pumpkin seeds and sesame seeds. And then again, cruciferous vegetables to help with the clearance of estrogen from the body. And by cruciferous, I mean things like cabbage and broccoli, etc. And drinking plenty of fluids as well helps with the clearance. Thanks. And then finally, we have the luteal phase. So this is when we start to feel a bit sluggish again. So this is when progesterone levels are rising. So we start to feel a bit more bloated than normal. So this is when we start to experience cravings, but it's really important to satisfy the cravings with the right sort of foods. So ensuring that we are supporting our hormone balance with sort of blood sugar balancing foods, ensuring we're pairing our kind of sweet foods with fat sources and protein sources to kind of slow that absorption of sugar into the bloodstream, and ensuring that we're supporting the cramping and the inflammatory symptoms. So some people might suffer from migraines during this phase of their period. So having omega-3 foods can really help to minimize that by kind of reducing the inflammation. And then ensuring that we have the electrolytes, which can also help with headaches as well. So we have a number of free recipes to give out to you, and they're for each phase of the menstrual cycle. So the picture on the left is a curried beef and lentil soup. So this can be really good for having in your menstrual phase, because we have beef in there, which helps with the iron. We have lentils, which is also a good source of iron, but also a good source of magnesium. And then tomatoes in there help vitamin C with the absorption of iron. And then the next picture on your right top hand corner is a salmon and quinoa bowl. So this has the phytoestrogens, edamame beans in there, salmon's a lean protein to help with energy, and the pickled slaw in there to help with your cruciferous vegetables with your elimination of estrogen. And then on the bottom left corner, we have a sweet potato curry. So this can really help in the luteal phase because it has magnesium from the sweet potato, turmeric is anti-inflammatory, and spinach to help with energy, with B6 and energy absorption. And then we have on the right bottom, we have a rainbow chickpea salad. So that's got chickpeas in there to help with vitamin B6 and choline, broccoli to help with cruciferous veg, and zinc, sesame seeds to help with zinc. So we'll be sending all these recipes to you through your email, so you have all those to hand. So I've talked about how certain foods can help with different phases of the cycle, can help support, reduce your symptoms, or be more in control and manage them better. But keeping your guts healthy is really going to help with hormone imbalance, because the way that we digest and absorb nutrients, it is equally important. We can be putting the right foods in, but if we're not absorbing them right, then obviously they're not going to have an effect. So our gut health is obviously important, like I mentioned, for excreting certain hormones. We want to make sure that our gut is working well through supporting it with fibre and feeding the healthy bacteria. Because there are certain bacteria that help to make B vitamins, for example. So having a good gut is going to help support that and manage hormones better. There's actually 90% of serotonin is made in the gut. So if we have if our gut is functioning fully, then this can contribute towards the happy hormone that we produce. So just wanted to point that out. It's important to kind of keep your gut healthy as well. And you can do that by avoiding the unhealthy coping mechanisms. So often we reach for, family-sized bar of chocolate or a packet of sweets, or a big packet of crisps, or alcohol to really help manage our mood swings. But actually choosing these type of foods can worsen our PMS symptoms. So they can increase inflammation to worsen our headaches and worsen our cramping. So it's just really important to be aware that you can choose tasty, satisfying snacks that are going to really help to minimize your symptoms. And these are the kind of foods that I'm talking about, real foods, not the processed foods in the packets. They're eating plenty of protein and complex carbs and healthy fats to really support your body as you're moving through the different phases, ensuring that you're regularly having prebiotics, you're regularly having fermented foods. And another point I wanted to mention is some of the foods that we have, some of the nutritional needs overlap between cycles. So if we ensure that we are focusing on this group of foods, then we're going to ensure that our body has the strength it needs. And if we make this a habit, to be prepared for the different fluctuations in hormones. So obviously stress can significantly impact the severity of PMS symptoms. So talking about gut health just then, stress can have, if cortisol levels are elevated, like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, then this can have an impact on the gut lining, which can trigger things like inflammation and make symptoms worse. So it's really, really important that we can manage our stress through different phases of the cycle. We know that stress is has a big impact on our symptoms because a number of studies have been done. For example, Nutritional, there was a systematic review and meta-analysis that showed that mindfulness and stress reduction interventions significantly reduced PMS severity. And a cohort that was run by a guy called Bert Johnson with over 3,000 women found that higher perceived stress was strongly associated with the higher risk of PMS. So making sure that we're aware of sort of how our body is changing throughout our cycles and aligning our workload is really, really important to keep on top of our stress levels. So in the menstrual phase, obviously, this is when we're feeling sluggish. So it's okay to sit down and watch the telly all day if you're feeling sluggish and you don't have any energy. This is really a time when we have to recharge. So don't force yourself to say yes to everything, and don't feel guilty about saying no, because this phase we really need to kind of hibernate, save our energy, and we're going to feel a lot better in the long run by doing this. And then moving into our follicular phase, so this is when our energy starts to rise. So it's really important that we don't overbook ourselves too quickly, because that's rise in energy after feeling sluggish can feel quite exciting, and we feel like, we want to do everything again and we want to get out there and see friends. But actually we've got to be mindful that not to overbook ourselves, because if we end up doing all those things, that can quite quickly lead to burnout. So just making sure that we are managing our energy levels and sort of keeping it calm and gradually aligning our activities to the energy increase. And then with ovulation, so this is when our energy is the highest. So this is when we're really creative, and it's a great time to connect with others and to collaborate and encourage sort of creative ideas. But also, yes, it's important to be aware that we need to stay grounded in this phase, because if we burn ourselves out by doing way too much, this can lead to anxiety. So just to kind of be mindful of that. And then in our luteal phase, again, so our energy starts to dip here. So we need to be mindful that not to overtrain, sort of not to book 5 gym sessions in a week and try and see everybody, because actually being calmer and having those more relaxing activities in our schedule is going to really help to support our energy levels and our mood, and ensuring that, you know, our nutrition is supported, and not to overbook our schedule, or not to leave planning to the last minute, just ensuring that we are well prepared for our activities the following week, and really being, and I love the statement at the bottom, this is not you being moody, it's your body asking for support. So it's not, so if you might have, you know, snapped at a family or a friend, just to be mindful that, you know, you might be in your luteal phase and it's not you, it's your hormones. So just being more kind to yourself there.
Great, thank you, Alison. I think it's all fascinating, and I also really like that last statement you said, because I think we can be quite tough on ourselves, as you mentioned, and often when we're already feeling low in energy and a little bit low mentally, if we start being a little bit negative to ourselves or tough on ourselves, it makes us feel even worse. So it's just that awareness piece of realizing that, yeah, at certain stages we just might not be as outgoing as we normally are, or feeling up for the socializing as much as we do. And if we take that step back and honor that, it's going to make us feel so much better as we move through our cycle and into the next phase. So I guess with exercise as well, you've kind of touched on it a little bit as well, in terms of how we should potentially slow down at certain stages. There was a really interesting research paper done on a female athletes taking part in the last Olympics, and they were asked if they could choose any day in their cycle to perform, to do their final event, what day would it be and where would it be in their cycle? And the majority of these athletes said just after their period. So that high estrogen phase, higher muscle building potential, higher mood, small increase in performance in terms of strength and endurance. So the research here is still being developed, and I think there could be a lot more time, energy, and money invested into the research around how we react throughout our menstrual stage and cycle. But it is being developed, which is good to know. And at the end of this workshop, we will share some recommended podcasts, experts in this phase, even some app solutions, because thankfully we're seeing a rise in conversations happening, but there's still a lot more work to be done. So in terms of movement and working out, in winter, as you can imagine, we should be reducing the intensity of our workouts. Light exercise, walking, yoga is proven to be extremely beneficial, especially the yin and restorative yoga style of practice. If you haven't tried that, I can't highly recommend it enough. Swimming, Pilates, again, like stretching, Tai Chi, these kind of feel good exercises that are also connected really to the mind. I think actually nearly all of these are very much connected to your mind and breath as well, and it'll just allow you to slow down and support your body in a more gentler way. As you come then through into spring, you can focus on more challenging workouts, not overdoing it, but definitely looking at strength training, looking at spinning, sprinting, rowing, you have more energy. And again, as you move into your ovulation stage, that to continue your more challenging workouts, your high energy at this stage. So building that strength. And then as we come back into autumn, looking to move that back into low intensity weight training, swimming, mobility and stretching. It can be hard to look at this in these phases, because I think at the moment, especially with the whole wellness industry, we're kind of being bombarded with information, what we should be doing at all stages. I mean, by right, if we listen to everyone, we should be having 3 strength trainings in every week, like moving every single day, maybe a few runs, definitely walking. We need to get the yoga in. Like, there's just so much going on. So I really enjoy the idea of actually looking at separating this out to our stages and not trying to fit everything into our weekly schedules, which is quite impossible anyway, but it's also not going to always be best suiting our body and where we're at in that moment in time. So if we are someone who likes to try different types of movement, maybe we can be walking during our menstrual phase. If you're someone who likes to be outdoors, maybe you can try a bit of light jogging or move that to running in your summer phase. If you're doing some strength conditioning, maybe you can do some yoga, Pilates in winter and move that then to your more kind of high rocks or F45 or your HIIT training as you go into spring and summer. So just looking at how you could potentially try rejig your workouts and movement and see how you can fit that into your cycle stage and see the results, see if there is any any results that you're noticing with your body as you do that. And then as you move into your sleep and rest, which is so, so important. And I think we often find it very hard to slow down in this very fast-paced world, but we know how beneficial sleep and rest can be for our body, for our minds. So we do see a lot of sleep disturbance just after ovulation as well, and in that premenstrual period, and that temperature shift can affect the quality of our sleep. So, some studies have looked at how our sleep architecture changes with this second phase, but again, still a lot more to be done on this. But from what we can tell at the moment, around winter, it would be really important to honor our fatigue. Earlier bedtimes are our friend. I love to hear this because I love an early bedtime anyway. Using heat, that's no worries at all if anyone needs to leave. I know we started a few minutes late, so we'll make sure to share the recording, and thank you so much for joining. So anyone who does need to pop off, please do feel free to leave, and we'll follow up with the rest of the and everything.
I listened to it. Yeah, when you send over the link, I'll try and get the first bit in.
Amazing. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. And keeping your caffeine low around this stage is also really smart. Your body's already in low power mode. So just trying to reduce or eliminate caffeine drinking later on in the afternoon. As you go into spring, then try to maybe stick to a consistent sleep pattern. I mean, this is always good advice in general anyway. But if you can also maybe use morning light to help reset your circadian rhythm, maybe sleeping with your blinds slightly open so you can rise with the natural light, and avoid overstimulation late in the evening. I mean, we all know this, right? The spring buzz can lead to late night conversations, late night scrolling. Trying to allow yourself to have a nice bedtime routine and slowly wind down would be really key here. And then for summer, you keep your bedroom cool. Temperature rise can disturb your deep sleep, so maybe keeping your window open, winding down your screen time to balance that social surge, and watch for late night overthinking or planning. And if you are in an overthinking frame of mind, something that I find really useful is just having a journal nearby and writing down the 3 things that are kind of keeping your mind racing. It might be 3 things you feel you need to do at work or in life tomorrow. Just jot them down real quickly, allow them to kind of visualize them emptying from your brain, and allow yourself to hopefully then unwind and stop overthinking. Using things like yoga nidras, sleep meditations, bedtime stories can also be really, really helpful. And as you move into autumn, prioritizing your sleep hygiene, utilizing magnesium, keeping your lights low in the evening to support melatonin, and also track your PMS symptoms as well. If bloating or anxiety or night sweats are waking you, are there things that you can do to support this? And then moving into our final area for health and wellness here is work and performance. So obviously we work 5 out of 7 days of a week on normal. The average human works, I think it's 90,000 hours in their lifetime. It's a crazy number of hours that we spend of our time in work. So it's really important that we look at how our ecosystem and environment is set up throughout our working day and how we're supporting ourselves. We can often kind of disconnect from ourself when we're at work. We're kind of become a different form of our identity. And with that, we can become sometimes these productivity machines. And it's not natural for us to do that. And yes, there may be high expectations on us. And that's something we need to learn how to put boundaries in for. But I think we can take a bit of autonomy here as well and look at our work schedules and see how we can best maybe rejig them slightly to support the different cycle phases. For example, in winter, can we step back from high pressure tasks and meetings for that week? Can we use this time for journaling and reflecting, closing loops, or even strategic thinking? And solo work is ideal at this time. So again, if you know that there's a chunk of focus time or solo work that you need to do, try schedule it for your winter phase. For your spring phase, it's a great time to be brainstorming, setting goals, starting new projects. You can map out your timelines, your strategies, or launch plans, and then collaboratively hosting meetings to feel energized, especially early on in the week as well. And then for ovulation for summer, lead those meetings, give presentations, pitch your ideas. You're feeling great, you're feeling energized, host your workshops, and use this time to schedule visibility if that's something you need to do in work, and also leadership moments. And then as you wind down into your autumn phase, it's a great time for finishing projects and for organizing and cleaning your workspace and decluttering, and autumn clean as such, starting to reduce your calls or your social meetings later in this week and preparing yourself for winter. So we don't really, or we shouldn't really be doing the same thing every week to be productive. I think productivity is really about utilizing our energy in the best way possible, and our energy levels change based on our hormones and our cycle phases. So let's tap into that. And I think that is the new productivity. Like, that's the new form of being productive. And I think it would be so powerful if workplaces would adapt this further. It's something I would be passionately love to lead the charge on. And hopefully one day I will be part of that. It's a slow bridge to cross. But if we can just start making smaller changes to our schedules ourselves, and then hopefully leading by example, that's really where we can make an impact. So I know we have around 5 minutes left. I know we started a little bit late, so I'm going to try and wrap this up within the next 5 minutes. And again, we'll share this recording with you to come back to. I'm going to talk to you about tracking for a more personalized approach to cycle syncing. So when it comes to your period, it's really helpful to be informed about what's your normal. Your normal would be different to my normal. So again, as I mentioned, my normal is a 35-day cycle, and that's healthy for me. And when we track our cycle, it's really helpful to use this to share with health professionals. So if we're starting to see things changing over time, which inevitably we will, because we're going to go through different stages throughout our life cycle, tracking our cycle and being able to share that with our health professionals when we're starting to feel or see these changes will just make it much easier for them to be able to get to the crux of the issue and be able to give more personalized recommendations. And tracking our cravings, how we're sleeping, our energy levels, all of this, track it all. And you can track it digitally. There's some great apps I mentioned that I'll talk to you about in a moment. Or we can be really old school and write it down, which I'm a big fan of doing. I think writing things down is so useful. And then I'll also use digital solution like an app as well. So cycle syncing in a more personalized way is the way to approach this. So another quick true or false, I just liked this when I saw it. Your period will sync with whoever you share a Wi-Fi signal with. I think you'll all agree that that's obviously false, but our menstrual cycles are influenced by environmental factors like stress, sleep, and routine, which can shift in shared spaces. So while syncing with other females isn't proven, connection definitely is. And I really think there is something there. I'd often, when my sister comes home from holidays, we'd often actually all of a sudden start syncing and get our periods at around the same time. We're in the same environment, we're doing similar activities, we're eating similar foods, and our stress levels usually are more similar. She's probably more chill than me. So I do think there's something there that we cycle with other females. Again, not fully proven, but connection is proven. So I think there's something with that. So I'm going to share now from a coaching standpoint. We utilize a lot of tools that help shine awareness onto different aspects of your health and well-being. And obviously for today's purpose, we're looking at cycle syncing. So it's a really simple tool to utilize. You're going to identify which phase of your cycle you're currently in. And then you're going to use the 5 areas that we've spoken to reflect how you feel in your phase that you're in right now. And then we encourage you to use this for each phase for the upcoming month. And from that, pick 1 or 2 micro actions or focus points where you can support your body and mind this week. I'll talk you through the planner. We're going to share this with you. It's really simple to use, but then I'm going to also share with you the kind of, I'll call them flashcards. So everything we've spoken to you today about, we've summarized it into these kind of flashcards. So this will be perfect for you to use. You can obviously go back over this webinar at any time as well, but also you can just use these flashcards and look at them. So if you're in winter phase, you can look at the winter flashcards, and from that choose 1 or 2 micro actions and then commit to implementing those actions and write it down on your cycle syncing planner. So here's the syncing tool. You write down your phase. And then we've got the 5 areas: nutrition, mental health, movement, sleep and rest, and performance. So if we look at nutrition, we've got some prompts in here. So looking at nourishing yourself based on your body's current needs. What's one thing I can eat or drink more of this week to feel better? So for me, I am in the summer phase at the moment. And for nutrition, I'm going to add more raw veggies and light meals to support my natural detox pathways during this phase. That's something I've committed to. So again, this is an example of what I've written down. For the cycle syncing tool, we have the little prompts. We have my example. And then we've got your blank syncing tool that we'll share with you. And you can use 4 of these throughout the month and see what you want to do for different stages of your cycle. So as mentioned, here are the flashcards. So there's 2 for each phase. So this is our winter, kind of recapping everything we've learned about our winter phase, how we might be feeling, what the time is to turn inward, to think more quietly. And then we've recapped across the 5 areas: nutrition, stress and mental health, movement, sleep and rest, and work and performance. So when you read through these, I think it will give you a great idea of how you can better support yourself throughout each phase. There's 2 of these for each of the phases that we've spoken to. And these are something that you always have on hand to utilize whenever you want to. And the one thing I would love and urge you to do, and we would love and urge you to do, is use the recipes that Alison has so thoughtfully crafted and curated to share with you. And also use the Cycle Syncing Tool and start from this week and start seeing how you can make small changes. And if there are changes that you are finding are bringing better benefits to you, please share that with us. We'd love to hear it, and share it with your other female friends who are going through their cycle, and maybe start opening up these conversations more and start letting them learn a little bit more when you're on your own journey. There might be one thing you can take away from today's workshop, one thing that you learned about. It might be about, how many hormones are in a female body. It might be about the different seasons and how they're broken down into the 4. It might be about a type of foods that you potentially should be eating more of. Whatever that one thing that you learned today was, please do share it with your friends, with your community, with your group, and start opening up these conversations and championing them as well. And to kind of remain connected on this topic, there's some recommendations here for continued learning and support. There's some really good podcasts. There's some really good expert voices who speak about this a lot. And then, of course, there's a lot of digital apps out there. Obviously, I have my own app. It's CRAOI. I've included it in here. It's not specifically around cycle syncing, but it is about setting goals and having a lot of content in there, like mindfulness meditations, yoga, movement, really healthy recipes. So there's a lot in there that can be useful. But sometimes as well, I would also say, just lean into the natural environment. There's so much we can do that doesn't need a digital device. Some breath work to slow down, a walk to allow us to stretch, maybe, doing a sleep meditation, counting backwards ourselves. Connecting with nature will automatically help us to de-stress. So there's a lot that we can be old school about, journaling and connecting with nature and connecting with friends and others, that can also really help us as well. So I'm just going to quickly wrap up here to let everyone jump off. You can obviously get in touch with myself and Alison. Alison's details are shared on the next slide as well. You are really welcome to try a free trial on CRAOI. As a thank you for joining today, you can download your CRAOI app from iOS, the App Store, or the Android App Store. And if you have any questions, just reach out to me. You can also book in for a free discovery call, and we will share these slides. And if you book in from this call, there's also a discount on coaching packages that I will offer you for being on this workshop as well. And for Alison, I'll let her explain.
Thank you very much. Yes, and you can contact me for further support, or perhaps you had a question around the nutrition element. You might have a question around gut health or stress. I'm really here to help. So you can email me, you can find me on Instagram, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'm also offering a free 30-minute nutrition consultation. So if you have any questions around your health goals and how nutrition can support any symptoms that you're experiencing, then please feel free to reach out. You can book a 30-minute appointment in my Calendly. And I look forward to hearing from you there.
Brilliant. So I'm just going to stop the recording now.